Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today. It's a mystery. So it's very exciting to read a mystery. We all want to know what's going to happen. And sometimes if you're like me, you read the first part, the middle, and then you can't wait. You just go to the last chapter to see if the last chapter will tell you, and you miss a lot of things along the way. So it just depends upon how you're captured by the mystery, and then you go back to read the whole book. But we have 4 wonderful mystery writers with us today that I encourage you to read all of their books. And because they write mystery, I'm going to, in just a few minutes after I get all the details out to you, is tell you something unusual about each of our 4 authors. And while you listen to the program, you're going to be thinking about which author might have done that. That phrase will relate to them. Okay, so today we are delighted to be welcoming Peggy Rothschild with her book, A Deadly Bone to Pick, Sheila Lowe with Dead Letters, Jennifer Chow with Death by Bubble Tea, Death by Bubble Tea. We put that incorrectly in our advertisement. So it's Death by Bubble Tea, and I apologize, Jennifer. We do have it correct on the registration. And Susan Rowland, The Sacred Well Murders. So as you know, I think they'll all agree with me, to have a mystery, you always have to have a dead body. Is that something that everybody will agree with? Do you all have a dead body in your mystery? Or not really? Sheila looks like she's not so sure about that.
Not always.
Not always. Okay.
Mostly.
All right. Okay. So what do you have? If you don't have a dead body, what do you have instead?
Well, there's other kinds of mysteries besides having a dead body, I think. And especially, I mean, there probably will be a dead body at some point in my books, but not necessarily on the first page, which we often hear, you got to have a dead body on the first page. But
right.
I don't think that's always true.
Okay, so I want to read these. Can you list again the titles and related authors in chat? It would be appreciated. Yes, we will do that. Tiffany, have you noticed that we publish this very elaborate off the shelf? And in off the shelf, we have the program here, and that's how you signed up. So we will list those. So somebody has a son as a rock star in Europe. Somebody hosts an afterlife Zoom group for people interested in what happens after we leave Earth. Someone once grew a popcorn plant. Someone is a vegan who hates avocados and bananas. And someone, unfortunately, lost their home in a wildfire in December of 2017. And so I'm sure we'll have some more statements as well, too. So what I'm going to do is just go around and ask everyone to tell us a little bit about themselves. How did they get into writing a mystery? What made them want to write a mystery? Do they sit down every day and write about a mystery? Or do they just write it as they think of it? Okay, so Jennifer, would you like to start?
Sure. Let's see. Well, I started out writing mysteries because I love reading mysteries. And I think I read my first Sherlock Holmes in the classroom library, which made me want to write mystery stories. And I turned one in for one of my elementary school teachers. Actually had a little bit of trouble with it. I started writing it and I was like, this is great and wonderful. And then I got to like the end and I wanted to make a twist and I wasn't quite sure what to do. And then I added something in and I was like, oh, I wonder what they'll think. And I still got an A+ on it. So that was very encouraging for me. And I write in the cozy mystery genre, which is sort of like the classic whodunit mystery, like Agatha Christie or Murder, She Wrote. It tends to not be super dark, and justice is always served. The protagonist is an amateur sleuth. And I think in the beginning, I actually wasn't sure. I wrote some manuscripts that were not mysteries in the very beginning when I started my writing career. But I wasn't sure I could do it. I wasn't sure if I could. Maybe it was that experience with my short story. And so I tried again, and I was able to do the full length manuscript, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so then I just gravitated to writing cozies. And so my new series it will be out July 5th is the LA Night Market mystery series. And the first book is Death by Bubble Tea. Here's the cover. And did you want me to answer writing process or?
Tell us what cozies are.
Okay.
What is a cozy? I don't know what a cozy is.
So a cozy mystery is the classic whodunit mystery. It's a fair play mystery where you get all the clues and the red herrings, and the reader has a chance to solve it by the end. Usually it involves an amateur sleuth, so someone who's not part of the police or a private investigator or paid to do detecting, and they get drawn into the case, and they will end up solving it based on their own wits. They can be themed, like mine is a culinary cozy, which means it's food themed, and so it actually has recipes in the back. But there are other themes, there are pet themes and all sorts of themes, witches or, crafting. So that's kind of common to the genre. The big things are maybe defined by what it doesn't have, which is there's not a lot of gore, swearing, and no sex on the page. So it's more, like I think a cleaner read, I guess, in some ways. Like I've had kids who've actually read this book, and they read it in their like school book club, or they read it with their older family members. So I think that's also one way to define it.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else write a cozy mystery?
I do.
You do? So tell us about yours, Susan.
Oh, thank you. I should go last, really, because I'm the novice here. I had a very enjoyable time this morning going to your local online bookstore and buying books by all my fellow panelists. So I'm really looking forward to that. So just quickly then, this is my first novel. This is my first novel. There will be, it is the beginning of a series. There will be another one coming out next year. So I waited 40 years before starting to write mysteries, which isn't good. It isn't good advice. But it is kind of true. But I've been thinking, well, why did I wait 40 years? And what I was doing in those 40 years was I was teaching literature. I wrote books about detective fiction by women writers. And I was teaching the psychology of the creative imagination. And you asked, why the mystery genre? And I came to realize that, the mystery genre is big and there's lots of different areas, as we've already seen, but some of it, perhaps particularly the cozy, is in many ways inherits the myth of the Holy Grail. because the detective is a kind of Grail knight who has to ask the right question to find the solution to the murder, and that solution will heal the wasteland, or in books like Agatha Christie's, will actually bring the world back to rights. And such is the power of the genre that despite often having a dead body, and I have two, and they're very gruesome, despite that, there is a sense that part of the magic of the story is that the world can be put back together again. So I write cozy mysteries, but they cozy mysteries with an edge. There's some quite unpleasant things going on in the book, or unpleasant things have happened to the characters, but I want to see if I can bring them to a better place and a place of hope at the end. The other thing I would say is that what I'm doing now, writing mysteries, carries on with work I've done previously on the idea of female heroes. So I'm using the mystery genre to explore generally marginalized women and putting them in situations where they might become heroic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. So Peggy, I think you had your hand up as a cozy mystery writer.
Yeah, mine kind of, it's being sort of positioned as a cozy mystery. It sort of straddles the cozy traditional mystery line because my main character, Molly Madison, her background, she was a cop, she was a PI back in Massachusetts, but now she's in California and she's training dogs for a living. So while she has more expertise than your usual amateur, she is definitely an amateur. So it falls into the cozy genre, and there's more than one body, but again, it's off the page. There's some light dismemberment at the beginning, but you don't see it. So yeah, trying to keep it not gory. And yeah, and there's a lot to do with dogs in it. So that kind of brings it into the cozy category. And I just, back to why I write it, what Jennifer was saying, I have been just an avid mystery reader all my life. And part of the joy was trying to figure it out, and who did it, and how are we going to solve it, and justice, for the characters. But it never occurred to me to write one. I wrote all the time. I did a lot of advertising writing, a lot of public relations, just all kinds of writing, but I wasn't writing fiction. And it was my husband actually saying, you should write a mystery, because I was always halfway through the book going, oh, I know what's happening. And I would tell him exactly what was going to happen, or we'd be watching something, go, shh, be quiet, don't tell me what happened, but because I always love puzzling these things out. And I think, well, maybe I should do this. I love to write. So I started writing one. And if I hadn't joined a writer's group, I'd still be rewriting the first 6 chapters. For me, joining a writer's group is what sort of pushed me on. You can't just polish these opening chapters. You need to go all the way to the end. So that for me was kind of what got me on my writing journey, was finding a great writer's group and getting some encouragement to tell a story that I thought was important.
Well, good. Thank you very much. So, Sheila, are you in a writing group, or do you write a cozy mystery? And what's the opposite of a cozy mystery? A murder mystery. Triple or double?
Well, cozy mysteries are murder mysteries, but I don't read in that genre very much, and I don't write in it. But as a child in England, I got for my 8th birthday a book by Enid Blyton, The Sea of Adventure, and the Rocking Down Mysteries. And so my love of mystery started back then, but it wasn't for a very long time until I wrote one, because when we came to the United States when I was 14, when I went to high school here, and started a career as a handwriting analyst, which I've done for now more than 50 years. And part of that is to analyze handwriting for personality traits. And then the other half is on handwriting authentication, so in cases of forgery. So I was doing this and raising kids, and all along I really wanted to write a mystery, but I was writing all of this technical stuff, and I had some books published about handwriting analysis. And I just, well, my goal was to get something done before I was 50. And I did. I made it with the Complete Idiot's Guide to Handwriting Analysis and Handwriting of the Famous and Infamous. But I still wanted to write a mystery. And you know, the big they say, write what you know. And so I started thinking about a mystery with a handwriting analyst, Claudia Rose. And I started to write Poison Pen, and it won in a competition. And then I thought I was on my way, but it took another 7 years to get it published. But last year, I've just published the latest, book number 8. This is actually an original cover that I started with last year, but it has a different cover now, but it's still the same book. It's called Dead Letters, and it takes my character to Egypt and Gibraltar and to England. And I was trying to think, is there a dead body in it? And yes, there is, but it's not the main story.
The main story. So tell us, can you tell any of the famous cases that you helped do the handwriting analysis?
Well, there was, do you remember the Clark Rockefeller case a few years ago? And
In
there was some movies
Pasadena.
about it. He claimed he was a Rockefeller, and he was a person of interest, and was later convicted of the murder of John Sohus in Pasadena, or yes, near Pasadena. So I testified, and it was the fastest I was ever on the stand. I was on and off in 10 minutes. There was a TV camera pointed at me, and it's a long story, but basically the prosecutor asked me, said, so Miss Lowe, you believe that Linda Sohus wrote this postcard that was involved? And I said, yes. And by the way, her family and a lot of other document examiners agreed with me. But he said, do you know how the circumstances under which it was written? And I said, no, because the defendant, whose real name was Carl Christian Gerhardt's writer, he could have had a gun to her head. So he was convicted, thank goodness. But I had been called by his attorney. They subpoenaed me to testify. I said, I don't want to testify for your client. I believe he's guilty. And they said, it's okay, just tell the truth. Of course.
Oh, has anyone else, as a writer, Mr. Writer, gone to court and helped solve a case online or in real on paper? Okay, so have you ever received a gift related to your book? Gift, something unusual related to your book? A picture or something that you got a mug?
I got a mug that says, please do not annoy the writer. She may put you in a book and kill you.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, I haven't received any gifts, but I one of the things I love to do is I also draw. And so as part of my promotion for my book, like for book 1, I made things that I gave away. And this was like the book 1 book bag giveaway, and I'm very excited. I just today got book 2's giveaway. It's that's different, the other dog from the story. So, but haven't received any. I'm just giving stuff away.
So you give those away when you go and do a book talk?
Well, I went to a conference, Left Coast Crime in Albuquerque, and so I filled 2 of these bags with things for dogs, like, collapsible water bowls, food bowls, and of course a signed book and, other things. And I'm planning at this point, depending on COVID, going to Crime Bake in Dedham, Massachusetts, because I used to live in Massachusetts, and that'll be fun. And I figure I'll load that up and do some giveaways. And I also usually give things away through my website periodically. But yes, I'm getting psyched for book 2.
Okay, so I went to the USC authors event pre-pandemic, if you all remember, which is a wonderful event down at SC. And that's how I met the California chapter of Sisters in Crime. Were any of you there at that time, or were you part of it this past They had one this spring,
Hmm.
the author event at USC. No? Okay.
Yeah, we have a booth there, and I always sign there every year. So it's a great
Uh-huh.
opportunity,
Yeah,
and it's great for people to come and meet and see what Sisters in Crime does.
Yeah,
right.
it's a nice event. I think it happened to coincide with Malice Domestic this year, which is a convention for traditional mystery fans and
Mhm.
writers. So I think that's probably why I wasn't there.
Oh, tell us about where's that mystery writing
Uh,
conference?
That's annually in Bethesda, Maryland, and it's just a nice convention for people who want to write traditional and for fans to get to meet authors, and it's just very warm, welcoming community. And here's my this is not sent, this is sent prior to writing the book, but
Oh, that's
it
darling.
was sent for my kids. It's actually also not just a stuffy, but a heating pad, so dual purpose.
Nice.
Very cute.
Bubble tea.
Very cute.
Bubble tea.
Bubble tea. So how do you pick your covers? Your covers are very, very attractive. Really, I kind of think that always kind of leads someone to select a book to read.
I didn't, I mean, the publisher did the cover. All I did was I got to tweak a few things. I wanted like the type line a little higher from the ocean. And yeah, there was like just teeny little things which they did. But yeah, I didn't really, I mean, they gave me a couple choices and I just love this one. This one's because it's set in the summer, it's set in California, and it does have a black lab who's not the main character, but I thought that's fine because the contrast was great. But yeah, it wasn't really, I mean, I got to say which one I liked, but I didn't I didn't really have a whole ton of input.
Yeah.
Sheila, how do you pick your books covers?
Who are you asking?
How do you pick your book covers, or does your publisher do that as well, or are you involved, or?
Me? You know, I my excuse me, my first 4 books in the series were published by a big publishing house, and then the next ones I went to a small house, and last year I took my rights back and I'm having them, I'm doing them independently. So I hired a cover designer and told them what the story was about and what I wanted, and I really do love this cover. I love the new one too, but this really, I have a thing for Egypt. And you were asking about gifts, and you can't see it, but I've been the president of this handwriting organization for 10 years, and I'm stepping out of that now. And this was a gift my board gave me. And it's a cartouche of my name, and it's from Egypt.
Oh, how
Oh,
nice.
what an Egyptophile I am.
Oh, very, very nice. Wonderful. So Jennifer, how do you pick your covers? Based on your agents, or do you give
Yeah,
them
it's
input?
the publisher. So I'm with Berkeley, which is also an imprint of Penguin
too.
Random House. Yeah. So Berkeley sisters. And so basically they asked me some questions about the characters, what they look like, and then they found an artist. And it was pretty much, I mean, she did an excellent job. So it was pretty much when I saw it, I said, oh, that's really good. And some minor tweaks to like some of the hair, the different colors, things like that.
It's a lovely cover. All the ones I've seen are. In my case, I found the photograph of the well. My story concerns modern people who are looking for their Celtic roots. It's set in England. The Celts were indigenous peoples all over Europe, and there's a group calling themselves the Reborn Celts, and they're trying to revive the Celtic religion, partly because of the climate emergency. And they're very into this sacred well, the idea of sacred wells. And there are sacred wells all over Europe that go back into the pre-Roman Celtic world. And then in later times, what was originally just a spring becomes built into a well, and in the medieval times they were made into wells, and some of them survive. And the book is set in Oxford and in London, where I was born. I was actually born on the banks of the Thames in London. and the book sort of ends in London, where people are moving around what were originally Celtic sites. So you've probably heard of areas in London like Clerkenwell or Sadler's Wells. These were all wells, actual wells that actually go back to the Celts, and the Celts worshipped water sources, and they would throw offerings into these water sources. And that's very much part of the story. So although I can't say I've been given gifts, I've certainly gone out and bought myself Celtic earrings. And the whole business of finding ancient artifacts, finding gifts to the gods is a big part of the story.
Well, that's probably why Celtics that we throw pennies into fountains.
Exactly. It goes right back
Yes.
about 3,000 years. Mm.
So have you all thrown a penny into a fountain?
Of course.
You hope it brings you good luck, or do you pick up pennies that you find on the curb or on the street only if the heads are up? Now, if the heads down, you're not supposed to pick them up. So if you find a nickel or a quarter with the head up, you're really going to be in good luck. Really lots of good luck. So how do you pick your characters? Because you all really write very differently. So Sheila, would you want to talk about how you pick your characters?
Well, I think in a lot of cases they pick us.
Well, they pick you.
My character in my main series is Claudia Rose, and she is a forensic handwriting examiner. She is not me. Everybody asks me when I give lectures, are you Claudia Rose? Well, no, she's much braver than I am, or perhaps more foolhardy. She does a lot of things that I would never think of doing. And she likes coffee. But other than that, our careers follow the same type of path, and her cases are often what bring her into the story. And she has a man in her life who she, through the series, gets closer. She's commitment phobic, but as part of the series, that relationship progresses, and his name is pronounced Jovanic because nobody can pronounce that the way it's written in the book. But he is an LAPD homicide detective. And so that's, that gives her an entree into a lot of things that she wouldn't otherwise have. So those are my main
Thank you very much. So does anyone else want to talk about how they pick their characters?
Well, sorry, Jennifer,
No,
you
go
go ahead.
No, I was just going to piggyback on what Sheila was saying, that the characters pick you. And I think it's the same in my case too. I have two cousins, which is these two at the heart of the story. And the main character whose perspective you're in is Yale Yi. And I think she just showed up. And of my cozies, I think always the characters show up first. And has some, similarities with me, as in she's bookish, and, she has this love for food, and her dad runs a dim sum restaurant. My family owned a restaurant too while I grew up, not dim sum, but we owned a restaurant. And so I think there's some similarities, but then they just have their own personalities. Yale actually will rate people and compare them to like dim sum dishes, and that's how she kind of understands like who they are and how to interact in the world. And so I paired her with her cousin who she hasn't seen in years, Celine, who's like the total opposite personality. And it was just fun to have that partnership where there's Celine, who's the cousin, who's a little bit entitled. She's from Hong Kong. She kind of flies in, and then she has to run this food stall at the night market with Yale. But then, as a murder mystery, one of the customers winds up dead. And so then they have to figure out what's going on. But it's so fun to have two like opposite personality characters work together on a case.
Thank you very much. Very much. So Susan, do you want to talk about your characters?
Well, I just want to say that during the 40 years when I wasn't writing, I was kind of haunted by the desire to take the mythical idea of the triple goddess that is actually to do with the moon. The moon has a kind of maiden phase, a full moon mother phase, and the crone, the kind of waning moon. So the maiden, the matron, and the crone, they are my detectives. So I have an older woman, I have a woman in middle age, and I have a very young woman, and they come together through a story that has happened previous to this story that's just been published. And they're all kind of strongly disadvantaged. They're not very good detectives. They've been given this job to do, and they fail dramatically for the first half of the story. The main character is the older woman who's been fired because of digitization, and her name is Mary Wandwalker. I made up the name, but in the books I say it derives from Anglo-Saxon, where Wandwalker means wind talker, old women who talk to the gods.
Thank you very much. So do you watch TV? There's the TV program Mysteries, Midsummer Murders. Do any of you watch that one? Or do you watch Hercule Poirot? Or do you read any of those books too?
I've read them, but yeah.
You've read them, but you don't watch. Okay, I do like to watch those mysteries on PBS very much. So someone wants to know, what about the impact of the Kindle on your book sales?
To me, I mean, they all count as book sales. I don't care what format the book people are reading it in. I'm thrilled if people are checking them out from the library. To me, it's just, I just want people to read the story. That's for me.
One thing about Kindle is, as an author, if you're in the Kindle Unlimited program where people pay a certain amount every month and they can read however many they want, the author gets paid only by the number of pages that they read. So you might have 2,000 page reads in a day, or you might have 10,000. And if the person gets the book, but they don't read it, the author doesn't get paid.
Oh, I didn't know that. So they can tell how many pages.
Yes, Big Brother is watching you.
Oh, whoa, that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us anything else about your writing process. Do you get up in the morning and write all day long, or do you write when you feel like it, or how did you get started? Sheila
dive in.
When she was a young child at 8. Did any of you read Nancy Drew? I grew up reading Nancy Drew. I just love to try to solve those. So how did you start writing? What age did you start writing, and how do you do it?
For me, the very first thing that I wrote, I rewrote the ending to Stuart Little. I don't know how old I was, but I was so unhappy with how that ended. I had Stuart go find Margalo, they were reunited, and it had a happy ending, and I was satisfied then. But yes, I was very upset by Stuart Little.
Jennifer, do you have any comments about that?
I started early. I can't really remember what age, but I was sort of one of those kids where, when you have kids who don't pay that close attention in school, and so they doodle on the margins. I was one of the kids who would kind of make little storylines on the side of the lined paper. So I think that was me. I was just kind of always imagining things, and I think that just kind of naturally grew into my love for writing and wanting to participate in writing activities, even in school, and like up through high school, and part of the newspaper and literary magazine and different avenues like that.
Okay, so someone wants to know, would you ever think about writing another genre? So you're all mystery writers, but what about historical fiction? Well, in some respects, Susan's books are historical. I mean, they are historical. Would you write a romance? Would you write just adult fiction? Would you write a child's book? Are you just really a mystery writers?
Well, I
Yeah,
have written, oh, sorry, a young adult. I had a young adult novel adventure published by a small Canadian publisher a few years back. So I have done that, but even that had an element of mystery, and I could see myself doing a mystery that's not cozy, but I don't see myself writing outside. I just love the puzzle of it. I love the why done it, the who done it, the searching for motivation. And some of the ones that I'm writing, there isn't always justice, but I just like the puzzle aspect of it and why people do things. And yes, I don't see myself stepping outside of the big umbrella that is mystery.
So do you outline, first of all, Jennifer?
Oh, I'll answer the other question first and then get to outlining. But I also wrote, like Peggy, I wrote some other stuff before mysteries too. And one actually was historical fiction, like historical women's fiction, but similar, had secrets. It was like this family, 3 generations in the Taiwanese American family, and they're all affected by, there's this massacre called the 228 massacre that happened in Taiwan that's really not talked about. And so it has that inspiration from like history, but then it also had secrets because they're all holding these secrets, personal secrets, and then that bigger secret, from Taiwan in the past. And then I also did some one YA, which was also like historical, but it was also more about like kind of paranormal, historical, and the protagonist is a ghost. So different, but she also had like, she was dealing also with secrets and like drama and, how to navigate. So I think the underlying themes of secrets and mysteries and unraveling things to find truth happen throughout all the stories. But for the outlining question, I would say that so there's 2 broad categories that people use to talk about authors, which is a plotter who plots, and then the pantser who writes by the seat of their pants. And I'm kind of in between, so I'm sort of a plantser, and I like to do like a general outline and then do kind of little bit organic writing within the scene as it comes out and whatever the characters kind of make me do, because sometimes I want them to go one way and then they don't. I would say though, I become more of a plotter, especially since my editor has now asked for, outlines and synopses early on to give me feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So does anyone else write that same way, or?
I was thinking, Christine, that your question about the genre kind of maybe is answered rather like people answered on the characters, that it's not so much choosing a genre, but the genre kind of chooses you. And what Peggy and Jennifer have said about the young adult and historical fiction is that they were the genres that were available to write what they wanted to write at the time. I, like others here, also feel very kind of called by the mystery genre, which has so much potential and flexibility in it. It's, I basically want to write about people who experience quite extreme setbacks in their life, but manage to overcome them. And it just so happens that the mystery genre seems to be the way I want to do that. I used to do a lot of writing in my academic career. And when I was doing that writing, I was planning it, you could say plotting it hugely. That's you know. So I thought, okay, I'll just do the same for writing a novel. Ha! Did not work at all. I had to kind of throw out all that I'd learned about academic writing and begin again as a novice.
Thank you very much. Well, Sheila, do you find that people get mad at you about your characters of what they do? Have you had anybody say, well, I don't like your character, like those characters. I want you to do something else?
You bring to mind somebody who emailed me a while back about one of my books in which there is a transgender character. And this person objected strenuously and gave me this whole story about, if I was a squirrel and I came out on your lawn, something, would you call me? It was just ridiculous. But that was the only time I think anybody objected. I usually get people writing to me about Joel Jovanic and how much they like him, and they like the relationship with Claudia. But to the other part of the question, I do write nonfiction all the time about handwriting, and I have another series which is another suspense series, but it's paranormal. And after I finish the next book in that series, I'm planning to write a memoir, which I think, who wants to hear about my life? But people keep asking me to do it. So I've decided I'm at least going to give a stab at it.
Oh, well, I think people would like to hear about the different cases that you've done handwriting analysis on.
Most of them are very prosaic.
Are they?
Like
Okay.
somebody, most of them are. Occasionally, more than occasionally, it's always about family members trying to screw each other. Somebody dies and the second wife, the bimbo, comes forward and says, all the kids from the first family are cut out and I get everything and my kids get everything, that kind of thing.
Oh.
But they're not usually famous.
Oh, okay. So what about TV series? Have any of you been approached to have your books for a TV series? You have, Sheila. You're nodding your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple of different good, well-known producers, but nothing has come of it so far. If I had $1 for every time somebody said, have you thought about making your books into a show or into movies, I would be rich.
Oh, okay. So it's a long process to get someone, because then you have to have someone write a play.
I was approached by a gentleman who has written screenplays for film, but he was like saying Hallmark Channel, and that in order for this to, this is the criterion. It was like, well, that wouldn't be this story. If you cut out this, and this, it's like, there's no mystery anymore. So yeah.
So what are you all working on next? Jennifer, are you working on something?
So I have book 2 in this LA Night Market mystery series, and it'll be coming out in spring of next year. And that one is titled Hot Pot Murder.
Oh, okay. Sheila, what are you working on next?
Well, I'm 60% done. Let me say, not even in the middle. I got to get this book done. 60% done in the third book in my Beyond the Veil series. And it's called The Last Door, and I'm hoping it will be out by the end of summer.
Okay, Peggy, what are
the second book in the Molly Madison Dog Wrangler mystery? It's called Playing Dead, and that will be out in February of next year. So
thank you. And Susan, are you working on something next?
Yes, I've got 2 sort of manuscripts I'm working on, same detectives. One of them is an alchemy story, and the other one is the origin story of how the 3 women got together. I think the origin story will probably come out first.
Okay, thank you. So remember I said at the very beginning, we were going to try to guess who said this. So I think I'm still missing somebody. And so if you haven't sent it to me, be sure and send it to me again. So just think about, who do you think has a son as a rock star in Europe?
Are you asking us or the audience?
Oh, I'm asking the audience. No, I'm asking the audience. No, I know who sent this to me.
And they're replying in the chat.
Yes, well, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay, does anybody have a suggestion? 3 new messages. Let's see what the 3 new messages are. Okay. Okay, I said Sheila does. Sheila does. Somebody said that Sheila has a son that's a rock star in Europe.
Somebody else said Susan does.
Right? So Susan does. So would the real mother want to step forward?
Me. And the other son is a tattoo artist.
Ooh, I might need to talk to him.
Where is he in Europe?
The son in Europe lives in Frankfurt.
In Frankfurt.
And he is the father of my only grandchild who is about to turn 3.
Very nice. So do you get to go and see him, or you haven't, maybe during the pandemic?
I was there when she was born 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And they were here visiting me in Ventura in March. So that was the first time I'd seen her in person since she was born.
That's hard. The pandemic has
child in
really
the world.
changed all of our lives. Definitely. Absolutely. So who do you think once grew a popcorn plant? You can put that in chat or you can raise your hand. So someone thought that was Jennifer. Well, does anybody else agree that that would be Jennifer? Once grew a popcorn plant? Okay, there's 2 people that say it's Jennifer. Okay, is that right, Jennifer?
That is correct. How do you know me so well? There's
People
a-
that guess by listening to you.
I know there's a story behind it. So I did it for fun. I was a kid and I thought, oh, look, it's like a seed. I can just plant it in the ground. And I think my parents thought, they're like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but they did. It totally grew into like a corn plant, and it has like the stalks and everything. And when you pull it off, you get an ear of popcorn. We didn't eat it. I just kept it as a keepsake.
Very nice. Very, very nice. They probably got that because your mysteries are related to food. So maybe they were able to deduce it that way. Very clever of somebody. Who do you think unfortunately lost their home in a wildfire in December of 2017? Well, I've got several answers. I think actually a lot of people that read your books or know you very well, all these authors, friends of you. So people are guessing that that's Peggy. Do you think that is Peggy? Peggy, is that you?
It is me, yes.
Smile
Yes.
about it.
Yes, because we used to live in
yesterday.
Ventura as Sheila does. So of course someone might have guessed you, but yes, we lost our home in Ventura.
Oh, terrible, terrible. That was a terrible thing.
Well,
to
we got out, or we got our pets out. So, could be worse.
Right. And so you don't live in Ventura anymore, do you?
No, we rebuilt, but we were not happy with the house that was rebuilt. It was gorgeous. And it was nothing like what we wanted. And it just felt, we had friends, our whole street was taken out. And we had friends who went through similar circumstances who just said, like, it's like living in an Architectural Digest magazine and I am not comfortable here. And so we lasted, like, we knew at like 6 months of being there, we weren't gonna, but we waited till Christmas because we hadn't really decorated the place because we didn't like it. And so we waited till Christmas time to put it on the market because we had decorations that would make it look like someone lived there.
Was it in Ondolando?
We were in Clear Point. Yeah, scenic way, that whole street, essentially, other than 3 houses, all gone kind of thing. Yeah.
What a terrible ordeal to live through.
It was not easy, but
No, not at all. Terrible.
you keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but I will say this, that the house fire is probably why I wrote a cozy. I was kind of struggling writing, and my agent suggested, why don't you write a cozy?
Mm.
And it was so much fun. And she didn't know I was struggling. She just suggested it. And it was so much fun to write it. It wasn't dark. The research I was doing wasn't gruesome. And I just thought, oh, yeah, this is the perfect thing to be doing.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
And
So,
I have a sort of connection here because I live in Ojai,
Oh,
and
okay.
we were very fortunate. The fire came very close, that same 2017 fire. As a result of that, I put that wildfire into my alchemy story. So one day it will appear, and that fire will be part of a story.
wow.
I can't even say
Thank
the
you
word.
so
It's,
much
it's too
for
scary.
sharing that too. Thank you very, very much. So, who is a vegan who hates avocados and bananas?
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's Jennifer.
You think it's Jennifer? Okay. Any other guesses? No, this is a more difficult question.
Mm.
So, no, that's not quite right.
Susan's the only one left.
Susan's the only one
Yeah,
left.
That's it.
But we have a real mystery here. I've sent lots of emails to Christine, and I don't
I
think
know,
anyone got
and
through.
they're not getting through. So there is absolutely a real mystery here
Yeah.
that I don't have that.
I remain a woman of mystery.
Who's the
Absolutely,
vegan?
absolutely.
I gave a choice. I've heard light or dark.
No, I've been looking through the whole time. If you've seen me looking down,
I think it's something to do with my Outlook account being a work account.
oh, okay.
Next
Maybe.
time I will.
Do you want to tell us something that's unusual that we might not guess?
I am here in California because I was living in London, and in my middle age, I ran away with an American poet.
Whoa.
Nice.
And we ended up here.
And you ended up here in Ojai. And are you still in Ojai?
That's right.
That's
You're only
right.
25 miles from me.
Mhm.
Oh, so you all live pretty well. At one time,
Some of
Peggy
us
and
do.
Sheila lived near each other.
Right. Didn't know it, but
Are you still in Ventura, Peggy?
no, we're up in the Central Coast, Los Osos, kind of near Morro Bay. But I've remained a member of the Los Angeles chapter of Sisters in Crime, just because.
Okay, so Sheila and Susan live kind of near each other. That's interesting. And Jennifer, where do you live? What city?
I'm down in the beach cities area, so near Redondo Beach.
Redondo Beach. And so you're all members of the Los Angeles chapter of
Mhm.
Sisters in Crime. So do you get together monthly? Or do you share? Do you have a group that reads other people's reads your mysteries and gives you comments?
I'm on the board this year. I'm the secretary. And we've had a couple of hybrid meetings where we meet actually back in person, but with Zoom as well.
Uh-huh.
And our next meeting, at least the summer meetings are going to be on Zoom because we are getting together with some of the other Southern California chapters, and maybe Northern too, San Diego and probably Northern California, and each doing a program.
Fascinating. Well, that's really fascinating. So I've got one more thing to say.
Oh, wait, could I,
Yes.
in case anybody wants to know about those programs, they can
Right.
go to our website, which is sistersincrimela.com.
Mm.
Perfect. SistersinCrimeLA.com. And can someone that is a mystery writer that's not a member, can they join? Is there a monthly
Absolutely.
dues or a yearly dues, or how do they just membership on that line?
They can come to the meetings for free,
Oh,
and they can be a reader or a writer. Well,
Oh.
everybody's welcome.
whoa, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Thank you. So who hosts an afterlife Zoom group for people interested in what happens after we leave Earth?
Mm.
Anybody have a guess?
I reckon it's Sheila because of her other writing.
Mm.
Okay, Sheila. Okay. Peggy also thinks that it's Sheila. So do you want to take a guess, Jennifer?
Unless
I
it's
agree,
you.
Sheila. It's not me. I know that much.
Sheila, do you want to take a guess? Yes,
It is me.
it is you. It is you.
Yes, yes. After my daughter was killed by her boyfriend in 2000. And so I wanted to know what happens after we die. And what I learned from my studies is that there is no death. There is life after Earth. And that's why I eventually started writing this paranormal series about a young woman who talks to dead people. And I host this group.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, I'm very sorry for you. I'm sorry to hear that.
She's very much involved in my life still.
Pardon?
She's still involved in my life in the spirit world.
Right. Well, you can always talk to everybody all the time. You can continue to talk to her.
And they hear it.
Like you have definitely found a way. But please accept my condolences. It must have been a terrible ordeal.
Yes.
Terrible ordeal.
Thank you.
So, okay. So, anybody else have any questions that you want to ask either of these four wonderful authors that I just know that you all want to go and read the book that we're talking about or their series. They've been very, very interesting today to listen to. Do you, if people wanted to meet with you, or they could go to, each one of you has a website. So they could go to your website and talk to you. Want to put your website in the chat? Okay. So it's www.sheila.lowebooks.com, https Peggy Rothschild at author.com, and jenniferjchows.com, and susanrowland-books.com. So all of those will be in the YouTube Pasadena Library. So Susan Rowland-books.com. Let me read them again. JenniferJChow.com. https://Peggy Rothschild author.com. And I'm missing www.sheilalowebooks.com. And then if you want to see the also the National Sisters in Crime organization is www.sistersincrime.org. So thank you very much. I love mysteries. I started off as a child with Nancy Drew. I watch PBS, these two series regularly, and I love to read mysteries. So thank you all so much for being mystery writers and helping to present this very fun program and share something unusual about yourself. And so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.